What's going on, Game Leapers? It's the Jizz, and today, guys, we're going to be going through the listed changes for the 11.15 patch. And can we just get a round of applause for Nocturne and Lulu mains out there who have somehow dodged nerfs in this patch? And it does sound pretty toxic, but if I have to play one more game with a first-time Nocturne on my team or a first-time Lulu on my team just because they're OP, I'm going to lose my oceanic mind. But yes, in 11.15, guys, there are going to be 21 champions getting buffed, nerfed, and adjusted. So to know who these are, if your favorite champion is going to be affected, make sure you stick around for the whole video. And there's also one item buff as well in this patch. But it doesn't really matter how good or bad your champion is. If you want to climb, if you actually want to improve at this game, there is only one destination you need, and that is the GameLeap.com website for up to 20 exclusive challenger videos a week that are for sure going to help your game on the Rift. Get signed up, links in the description and comment section. Alright, so let's get into it and let's talk about the champion buffs, and let's start on a positive note, and there are 10 of these. Now, I want to start in the bot lane, and I just want to congratulate the Balance team for finally buffing Caitlyn. And I put Caitlyn as the second worst champion on our worst champions video, and it pleases me to see her in the champion buffs. Now, it is a little risky buffing Caitlyn because she can be very oppressive, but at the moment, you legit have to play perfectly to win. Like, that's how you play Caitlyn, right? If you die once, it's GG. So seeing her on this list did put a smile on my face. And the other AD carry guys getting buffed in the bot lane is Xayah, another champion who has been a permanent fixture on our worst champions list, and despite Riot giving her multiple buffs this season, she is still by far one of the worst AD carries. I just hope that instead of improving her Q's damage by a little bit, they reduce that ridiculous ultimate cooldown of yours, which is 3 minutes at rank 1. So some good buffs coming in here for AD carries. Now let's switch it up and head to the mid lane and talk about the 3 champions getting buffed here. Now the first one is Syndra, and this is going to scare a lot of people because Syndra can be oppressive in the laning phase. And once you get to Luden's Tempest, it is true, you can just press Q and R to nuke enemy squishies. But after the Phase Rush nerf and Seeker's Arm Guard nerf, guys, it is a little dangerous picking Syndra, and this is why Syndra also featured on our worst champions video for 11.14. So seeing a buff come in, I think it makes sense. Next up, we have another mage, and this is Cassiopeia. And to be honest, I actually think Cass is in a pretty decent spot at the moment, so for her to get a buff here if you do main Cassio, you guys should be very excited for 11.15. Like with Leandri's Anguish and Sarah's Embrace, I actually think it's a pretty deadly combination, and if you land one Q on an enemy champion, it's curtains. Now the last champion getting buffed in the mid lane, guys, for next patch is Kanine. So if you want to play a champion who's probably one of the best team fighters in the game, then you should be happy. Because Kanine, with Rocket Belt and his flash up, is there a scarier ninja on the Rift? So those are the ADC and mid lane buffs. Now let's head to the top lane, guys, and talk about the one champion getting buffed in the top lane, and this is Mordekaiser. And in lower elos, Mordekaiser actually does pretty well, and Riot did say that 11.15, lots of these changes have been influenced by elite level play. So in Master and above, Mordekaiser, it is true, does struggle, because getting kited is one of his big weaknesses, and in higher elos, ranged champions do exist. So this is great in that respect, but in lower elos, because champions are going to headbutt you, this makes Mordekaiser even more dangerous, so watch out for the Mace next patch. Now the 2 junglers getting buffed next patch, guys, and Nidalee, this is one of them, and to be honest, I don't really understand this buff here, because Nid has been good pretty much the entire season, and it's not like she's not good in higher elo. In fact, she's better in higher elo than what she is in lower elo, just because she's a high skill cap champion, and it's like you need skill to play her. So this buff is a little befuddling, but hey, it wouldn't be a Riot patch if it wasn't befuddling. And the last jungler getting buffed, guys, is Shyvana, and this one I kind of agree with, because for Shyvana, in higher elo, a bit like Mordekaiser, getting kited is one of your biggest weaknesses, and the fact that you bring no crowd control as a jungler means that when you do gank lanes, it really isn't scary at all. Maybe when you're level 6 it's a little scary, but apart from that, all you're doing is just farming and hoping that free kills appear on the map, and if they don't, well yeah, you're going to lose. Now the 2 supports, guys, the last champions getting buffed on this list, one of them is Blitzcrank, and this one makes me happy because if you're playing Blitzcrank, I don't know if you guys do, but when you throw out about 2 hooks, let's say, you're pretty much oob. So I'd love to see a mana pool increase here or a mana cost reduction in his Q or some of his other abilities. This would make him just more playable in the bot lane because there are a lot better hard engages down there. And speaking of one of these hard engages, Rel is the last champion getting buffed. And with all the recent nerfs to Rel and the buffs to Lulu, this has made Rel's time in the bot lane pretty hard because yeah, playing against Lulu, it's really fun, isn't it? So this buff is another one that is understandable, but you never know, it might make Rel super OP and just, well, impossible to play against. So those were the 10 champion buffs, guys. Now let's talk about the 9 9 champion nerfs coming in hot for 11-15. Now we're going to start with the top and mid lane here, guys, because there are a lot of champions getting affected next patch. And the first champion I want to talk about is the new Aurelia, who is ridiculously busted at the moment, and this is the first champion getting nerfed. Now I don't know if you guys have seen, but Aurelia with a W max in the mid lane, even in the top lane, is just stupid. Like, your W almost one-shots the ranged minions, so what you can do is just W and then Q to each ranged minion, and remember at that point you only need one more Q to get your Ionian further stacked, because it's only 4 stacks now. And so far, by the way, in 11-14, guys, Aurelia's win rate has gone up over 5%. That's how broken she is. Now, she is easier to play, I get that, but she's so much more forgiving, and there's just way too much in her kit at the moment that is making her, like, there is very little counterplay and not much room for error if you do play against her. So this nerf, if it didn't come in, I think some of us would have quit League. Now, next up in one of these solo lane guys, we have to talk about Annie, who is finally getting nerfed. Oh my goodness, like, how long has Annie been one of the best mid laners? I don't know, whether you decide to go with Hextech Rocket Belt or Luden's Tempest, with Sorcerer Shoes and Magic Penetration, it's just too scary to play against, to be honest. If you're 0-3, 3-0, it's like you're the same champion because you bring so much to team fights, and you can still one-shot anyone, regardless of how fed you are, so an Annie nerf makes complete sense here. Now, another champion in the mid lane getting nerfed is Aurelian Sol, and to be honest, for Aurelian Sol to get nerfed, this is like a kick in the teeth, to be honest, because to be honest, like, how often do we see Aurelian Sol? Now, it is true he does have high win rates in high reloads. What are the chances of Aurelian Sol getting picked in pro play? Which is also something Riot said. They're kind of focusing this patch around the playoffs, which are coming up, but seriously though, like, how many people are going to pick this Cosmic Dragon just because he has a high win rate? Probably by one tricks. So yeah, I don't understand this nerf, and feel free to flame Riot in the comments. But one nerf I do agree with, and one nerf I'm sure you guys will agree with as well, is the nerf coming up to Wukong. And for Wukong, for a champion with 2 ultimates, yes, you're going to be OP in pretty much every patch, and it's kind of a shame, to be honest, because yeah, just the fact this is still in the game means the rest of your kit is probably going to be targeted, even though, yeah, that is the main issue. Despite getting nerfed a few patches ago as well, Wukong is still performing at a high level with Divine Sundra, so this makes complete sense. And another Divine Sundra abuser getting nerfed in 11-15, guys, is Viego. And if you're playing Viego in the mid lane, or if you're risking him in the top lane, or even in the jungle, this champion, I don't know if you guys know, but in high reloads has a 50% ban rate. He's banned in 1 every 2 games. How crazy is that? And the main reason is because people just hate playing against him, because if he gets some sort of a lead, he is the scariest champion on the Rift by far. He's very hard to kill, he has mobility, he has damage, he has resets. It's too much to handle even for the best players in the world. So a nerf to lane Viego, yeah, this is another one that kind of makes sense. Now, the last 3 laners, guys, getting nerfed next patch. Now, there are no ADC nerfs, by the way, so you guys should be happy. These 3 nerfs belong to Sylas, one of them. And for Sylas, because of all the recent buffs, especially to your W, your passive, it's far too easy to make Sylas work, and because the early game is kind of rough, the fact that Everfrost is now 200 gold cheaper means that you're getting to your mythic spike earlier, and the weak early game you have, like, yes, you can get bullied in the laning phase by a lot of champions, it just makes it way too easy, right? Like, if you survive and you don't die, even if you're down like 50 CS, you're still going to be really useful, because as a champion, innately you're so strong, and with Everfrost down in gold, you're getting to that spike in power super early. And to be honest, if Riot didn't nerf Sylas, I think we'd see him in every pro game. Now, another AP damage dealer we have to talk about, guys, who's getting nerfed next patch is Gwen. And I don't know if you guys have played against Gwen as well, especially in high reloads. They are so annoying to play against, like, oh my god. With Nash's Tooth, Riftmaker, Bramble Vest you can even build against some AD champions. The healing, the mobility, the DPS, the fact that you can't actually target her sometimes as well, that's really fun. And a bit like the Sylas nerf, I think if Riot didn't nerf Gwen, we would see her in every pro game coming up. Then the last laner getting nerfed for next patch, guys, is Kayle. Unlucky Nemesis. And yes, Nemesis has really just made this popular, right? Like, lots more people are playing it, and because of the Nash's 2 spike with Riftmaker now, and the fact that the mid lane is less scary, you know, Prowler's Claw, you can only Prowler's Claw to enemy champions, and lots of mages in the early game aren't really that scary. It's pretty easy to survive because they scale and, you know, really hit that power spike in the late game. Picking Kayle is pretty free in most games, so this nerf is understandable, but it's kind of weird because in high reload, she actually still does struggle. But the last champion we have to talk about getting nerfed, guys, resides in the bot lane. It's not an AD carry, I wasn't trolling before, don't worry. This is a support, and this is Thresh. And Thresh is getting nerfed for like the 4th time in a row, it feels like, right? And it is true that Thresh's win rate in high reloads is still good, but the thing is, Thresh's win rate is always going to be good in high reloads because of how much utility he brings. But is that really a bad thing? Like, that's the champion design, he's always been like this. So nerfing him again, like, seriously, why not Lulu? So those are the 9 champion nerfs coming in for 11-15, guys. Now, the 2 champion adjustments are coming to Rumble and Dr. Mundo. Now, of course, with all of these changes, none of us know what's going to happen, so make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. We will release release all of these details tomorrow at the same time when they are released. And the champion adjustments, these seem interesting, right? Like Rumble is picked a lot still in the jungle, mid lane, top lane. And Dr. Mundo, like what are Riot going to do here? Do they actually want him to be in the jungle? Do they want him to be in the top lane? I mean, that is where he's played most of the moment. So normally these adjustments come in because Riot want them to be played more in a role. So we'll have to see what these changes are tomorrow yet again. And the last thing we have to talk about for next patch, guys, is the system buff or the item buff to Hullbreaker. So Hullbreaker getting buffed. Very interesting here because on some champions, Hullbreaker can really work, but it still isn't really picked that much just because of how good other items are. And if you do pick this item, it's normally after like 2-3 major items. So it's probably too late in most games to even build it. So if you're playing a split pusher like Alawi, like Nasus, like Yorick, this is certainly going to be interesting to keep an eye on. So those were the listed changes for 11.15, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to stick around for tomorrow's video, releasing all of the details. And until then, this has been the Jizz. Bye.